Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pyrocast. If this is your first time, then just welcome. That's the best way to start it. So, today we're going to be talking about haunted memories, and what that means is we're talking about any sort of paranormal and or extraterrestrial experiences that you may have had in your life. It could be from childhood, it could be in adulthood, whatever. If you've had something really just unexplainable happen to you in your life, that's what I will be talking about with our good friend TJ. So we're going to start off with TJ and let him go first because he's got a good story to tell, and then we're just going to kind of spitball back and forth after that because we both, I'm sure, have numerous stories. I know I do. So, TJ.
What up, guys? I'm so glad that, Pyrosaur invited me back. Hashtag Pyrosaur Godson.
That was such a bad intro. Oh, God.
I'm working on my hosting. But yeah, so, when I was younger, I would always go over to my grandparents' house, and she, lived out in the middle of nowhere, would, consistently leave all of the lights off around the house and everything, middle of the woods. So it was already creepy enough,
I've never understood that. Like, even people that live in the middle of the woods, they turn all their lights off. No, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
There's too much darkness around here.
I've seen movies about this, and I'm not turning into one.
Right, yeah,
But, I mean, if you go back maybe 800 feet, there's a huge lake that connects to a park, and so, we would always have creatures and everything coming up from the woods, making noise in the yard. So it was already kind of sort of sketch as is.
Like you had wild animals and stuff, and coyotes, bears.
You'd hear
whatever.
them every night, honestly, the coyotes just hanging out by the water.
Oh, God, that's got to be kind of eerie, especially, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's dead silent. You don't hear, car traffic at a close-by highway or a close-by street. You just hear nothing but, the air moving through the trees and, some crickets, and that's about it.
Exactly.
That's all you hear when you're out in the sticks. If you haven't experienced that, it is a zenful moment. It's very meditative, but it's also very fucking terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
Depending on your mood and where you're at and what time of day it is, there's a lot of factors there, But,
the only light out there that was consistent just happened to be the light on the telephone pole that, had to connect all the way down the long dirt driveway. There are the bends and turns through the woods.
Oh, man.
And so, and that was at the very end of the driveway that, where we could see, but that doesn't help illuminate anything else.
No, it doesn't. That,
nothing.
Literally what you just said about just the street lamp over, a dirt driveway, and that's it. That's the only light that's outside and around. I felt that in my bones when you said that, because I've been to places like that where it's very unsettling because all you see outside of that street lamp is pure darkness.
Yeah.
Most you can probably see is the top lining of the trees against the sky, and that's about all you can see.
Yeah.
You can't see anything else beyond that street lamp. It's pitch dark.
And I mean, that was when, the sky had no clouds or anything, is when you could see it. But, just dark nights, no moon, no cloud, all clouds everywhere.
Oh.
You can't see 2 feet in front of your face. And you're like, I can't,
Yeah.
So, I was maybe about 12 years old at the time, and she decided she was going to go out with my grandpa and go play bingo. A typical sport for retirees. And being at the time, I was like, y'all go have fun. I'll chill here. And going into their house, a lot of it was honestly made up of windows. Mm-hmm. So you always had a kind of eerie feeling something was watching you. So they left, and I just kind of shut all the blinds that were around me at the time. Mm-hmm. And all the rest of the lights in the house were off besides the living room and our den area that just dropped off from the living room.
Yeah.
And, that was it. The rest of the house was just pitch black. I didn't plan on going anywhere else into the darkness.
You were confined to that one part of the house. Yeah.
And I was like, this is a wrap. I'm here till someone gets back here.
Yeah. And it's daylight.
Yeah. So it's maybe about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And, they're off. They had just left maybe about an hour ago. So they, were about halfway, through their evening. And I'm sitting there in front of the computer in the den area in the drop-off from the living room.
Right.
And the way the living room is there's two entrances to it. There is from the kitchen area that you come in at, and you have the mudroom right there and the back porch.
Right.
The other doorway goes into the hallway that connects from the kitchen, and it leads to a storage area and two of the bedrooms and a hall closet. So, there's no entrances back there. There's, nothing back there that could potentially get in unless they had a ladder or anything like that. And so I'm sitting all the way in the far corner, and I just won a game. And so, I sat back in my chair and was like, thank gosh, I'm happy I did it. I need a breather, appreciating the win. And out the corner of my eye, something catches it. And this one is to the doorway and the hallway where all the bedrooms are.
Right.
And I just look over and I see this kind of orange thing just kind of grab the door frame. Because there wasn't a door there. It just led out into the hallway. And so...
So when you say orange thing, what do you mean? Like, was it like a hand or was it a something else? Or
It was kind of like a hand, but the fingers were... I guess a little longer than you would typically think, and it kind of just wrapped around where the finishing for the door frame is and everything, and it kind of extended into the living room.
I don't know why, but like when you said orange, I just thought of like some orange fluffy like Sesame Street looking character. Like
I think I would have been more scared.
That would have been more terrifying than some creepy skinny like
Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, like hey Bert, want to play? Like and speaking of Bert and Ernie, I have a story for that later in this podcast after you finish yours, because you just triggered the next story that's going to be told. But I just pictured like some like fat stubby fingered like furry hand like that looks like a fucking Sesame Street character like coming out of the corner. Like I'd have been like, all right, this is a joke, right? Like this has to be a joke. Yeah. There's no like, is this really how I go out? Is this how I die tonight? Like that's not fucking cool. Like, come on, man.
Big Bird's the getaway driver.
Right? Yeah.
But I guess it was really... It looked staticky. It didn't look like a solid hand or like a mist or anything. It was just real staticky.
Right.
And so I'm looking at it, and at this point, I'm honestly ready to already shit my pants.
Right.
And so I'm ready to shit my pants already. And I just look at it. I've just turned my head enough to where I can see it.
And there he is, Big Bird.
All of a sudden, the head and the shoulder and part of the body just kind of emerged, like it was looking around the corner to see who was in the living room or in the den.
Oh, God.
And at that point, I had just faced my reality and said, this is it. Mm-hmm. And I turned my whole chair, because it was a turning chair. It was a computer one. And I turn all the way over and I just look at it, paralyzed in fear. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of looks at me for a second, and then it retreats back in to the dark.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is most spirit encounters are like that. They're kind of just watching you from afar, right? Like you don't ever know what their intentions are until it's really already too late. You know, like
Yeah.
you don't ever know what their intentions are until it's already happened. But they do like to watch from afar like that. They like to observe and they like to see what you're doing. You know, because and it makes sense because if I
Do
was
it from
dead,
further away.
yeah, if I was dead and I wanted to check in on someone I know or even just see what some random person is doing out of boredom, you know, I would look from afar and I would be like, okay, they're doing this and oh, this is interesting. They're making popcorn in the pan instead of the microwave. Ah, they know their shit. You know,
I'd watch that if I was alive.
right? Like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like you're just observing normal human behavior.
Yeah.
You know, so you know most spiritual encounters are like that. They're never super close to you. They're always from afar. They're always kind of watching from the distance. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I went on
no.
a little tangent there, but continue.
But I mean, at that point, I didn't know what to do. I think I sat there and I just stared at the door for probably the rest of the duration, which was probably another hour.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally got back home. And
Wait, so you were staring at this entity the whole hour? Or you saw it disappear and stared at that spot?
I saw it disappear after a moment, and I was paralyzed with fear. I was home alone. I didn't know what to do, and I just stood there and I watched the door.
Where you saw it materialize.
It didn't come back.
Yeah,
I was like, you know, I'm not turning around and getting got. I've seen too many things.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
like, I've watched enough fucking horror movies to know that, like, I'm not going to be the dumb white person that fucking, you know, oh no, I've fallen and I can't get up. You know, like, I'm not pulling that
I'm
shit.
getting up. I don't care.
Yeah. Like, it ain't happening. I'm bolting the fuck out of that house. And it's a done deal.
And typically I would have, you know, if I was anywhere else, but where would I have gone?
Yeah.
Underneath the, you know, street light in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
And I just said, this is it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm either going to watch this door or I'm going to get got. And they finally came home and I was like, I need y'all to take me home, please.
Mm-hmm.
Today, not tomorrow. Like, love you immensely, but I got to go. Good luck.
So, have you been back since?
No. I have not.
You've never been back to that house?
No.
Did you explain to the people that live at the house why you haven't been back?
I told my grandparents exactly what I saw.
That was your grandparents' house?
Yeah.
What did they say?
Well, my grandmother still lives there. My grandfather passed away.
Yeah.
And from weird circumstances, probably. From the ghost. Just saying.
Really?
I'm done. He was healthy as a horse.
How old was he?
He was maybe about 73.
73's, yeah, that's still, I mean, the average lifespan of a male is about 80, I think it's like 80 to 84 years. And then women, it's like 86 to 90 years. Women live longer than men, statistically. You know, but
I've seen a lot of studies.
yeah, like I don't know the exact numbers. You know what? Let's go ahead and look it up right now. Now that we're sitting here talking about it, what is the average lifespan of a man? What is the average lifespan of a human man? Okay. The average man lives 76.3 years. And a woman lives average to 81. So women live a good, like, probably 6 to 7 years longer than men on average, right? Well, I'm sorry, 8 years. That's 8 years. From 73 to 81, that's an 8-year difference. That's a big difference. But I was just curious.
Yeah. But I mean, he was healthy. You know, he, you know, could do laps around me at, you know, the age of 10.
No, yeah, I mean, my great-grandfather, dude, that man lived to be 104 years old.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Or it was 103 or 104. One of the two. Mm-hmm. And he he was my great grandfather, and it's known in my side of the family for longevity, right? Like the men have longevity in my side of the family, which is really uncommon, and that's really strange, because if you look at the averages, women always live longer than men. But in my side of the family, the men always outlive the women, and by like a substantial amount, right? Like,
yeah,
they don't just make it to the same average lifespan age as the women; they surpass it by like 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's really strange. Now, granted, my great grandfather never had a drink in his whole life. He never smoked. He never did any sort of drugs. Like, he never did any of that. He always exercised. He ate healthy. He was a boxer. And he was a pretty damn good boxer, too. Like,
yeah.
he did amateur boxing for a long time. And he was a pretty good boxer. Like, not like Mike Tyson worthy, of course.
Yeah.
But, he was damn good at it. So, average lifespans are just averages, right? Like they're not surefire, in stone. So the point that I'm getting to is that your grandfather was still at an age to where there's no reason why he should have just randomly dropped dead, right? Like so my curiosity is, what did they do an autopsy? Like, what was the cause of death and what surrounded all that?
From what the autopsy read, it was just, for whatever reason, he just passed in his sleep.
Right.
He went off and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
they just label that as natural causes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Out of nowhere, and I just talked to him, 2 days before, and he was like, I'm going to go outside, I got to go build this fence, for the chickens over here, and, I got to get ready for the horse and everything like that,
Right. Like, just still doing his day-to-day.
Everyday thing,
yeah.
working just fine, nothing had changed in his routine at all.
That's so strange.
And he just passed away.
Huh. And, even my great-grandfather, Norman, when he was at 103 or 104, I can't remember. I'd have to ask my grandmother. She'd be able to tell me the exact age.
Yeah.
But he just, same deal, just kind of died in his sleep. Now, somebody that age, you kind of expect that, right? Like, that's, it's not the same as the point that I'm making is not the same as your grandfather's situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit more odd at that young, quote unquote, of an age. Like, most people don't die in their sleep in their 70s. That's usually like people dying in their sleep is more rare of an occasion than people think it is. Like, that doesn't happen that often. But when it does, they're usually really fucking old. Exactly. Like my great-grandfather, he was 103 years old. Like, dude, like, that's old. Like, that's a long time, dude. Holy shit, that's way too long for me personally, So, I see what the point that you're getting to is that it's odd that you said he was 73?
Yeah.
Huh. Did he... okay, well, what about his medical history? Like, did he...
He did
drink?
have...
Did he smoke? Did he, did he do, like, unhealthy things throughout his life? Or
he did drink, he would drink a beer, he'd maybe have 2-3 beers a day, at retiree age.
But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and call right now that doesn't make a difference. And the reason I say that, have you ever seen that old lady... One of the oldest ladies to ever live drank a shot of whiskey every day of her life.
Yep. And there's women that are up there in age in their 90s and 100s who say, I have a glass of wine every day with breakfast. Or, people will say, well, I don't go throughout my day unless I have, a shot of something, and it's their, like, everyday routine.
Mm-hmm. And that lady... said that she would have a shot or two of whiskey per day, and she did that for like 70 years or some shit like that. every day for 70 years straight, never missed a day on it. Like, what? You had 2 shots of whiskey every day for 70 years and you didn't have no health problems? It actually created longevity for you?
The human body is crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's so what do you here's my question is, what do you think it is that actually caused your grandfather to pass? Do you think it was natural causes, or do you think it was something paranormal? That's the question.
I mean, he was healthy, you know. He was great. He was, you know, plowing his fields, you know, for his little garden he had, which was maybe like a football field, and he was plowing it by hand, you know, with a regular till.
So active man should be pretty healthy for 73 years old.
Yeah, would go out fishing all the time on the boat, you know, lived a perfectly normal life, went out every single day, did something, you know. It was never dull with him, you know. He always had a plan for his day. And, you know, he just kind of passed away all of a sudden out of nowhere. And I don't know if it was just his time for whatever reason, and, you know, we weren't ready, but in that house, you always got an eerie feeling because they would always, you know, tell me about weird things going on in the house as well. And so that I would normally always go out with them, you know, when they went somewhere that late in the dark. But this time I just decided I wasn't going to. And, you know, that just happened to happen. And I was like, I've never been back.
Yeah.
You know, we would always meet up somewhere. My grandfather would come over to the house and, you know, he did everything.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if they got him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. There's unexplainable shit about this world. I don't care what anyone says. There's shit that happens sometimes that just doesn't make sense. By the laws of physics, by the laws of gravity, by the laws of everything that we know, that there's stuff that doesn't make sense. Okay, so a perfect example is my story about the Ernie doll. Okay?
Yeah.
So, when I was in high school, and I want to say I was junior year, right? I'm pretty sure it was junior year in high school. So I was about 17. I lived in, you know, house in Greensboro when my dad and my stepmom were still together. And my stepmom had kept a lot of her childhood stuffed animals, dolls, toys, whatever, right? I think they were just from her childhood. Her dad had given them to her, like, you know, sentimental items, right? And they were mostly Sesame Street characters or like Looney Tunes characters. So like Bugs Bunny and Marvin Martian and, you know, Porky the Pig, like, you know, stuff like that. But there were some Sesame Street characters in there and like stuff like that too. She had a whole like slew of these stuffed animals. Some of them were electronic and talked when you squeezed them, and like, you know, had a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so I know, actually, thinking back on it, it definitely was my junior year in high school, but it was for summer vacation towards my senior year. And I'm sitting at the house by myself one night. My dad's not there. My stepmom's not there. It's just me and the dog, right? And it was Biff. Biff, for those of you listening, was a black lab that we had. He was a family dog. He lived to be about 15 years old, and we just recently, several months back, had to, you know, let him go because his legs gave out on him. Like, he was just an old dog. His kidneys started failing him. Like, you know, had to do the right thing and just have him euthanized, because otherwise he would have just suffered for the rest of his life. So anyway, getting a little bit further away from the sad, you know, depressing shit. Biff was a great dog. And at the time this happened, I want to say that Biff was very young. I know that for sure. Biff had to have been, probably 3 years old, still just spry and ready to go, right? Still very active, still very uppity, still very young, good, healthy, strong dog. And the reason I'm saying that and putting emphasis on it is that he wasn't seeing shit this night. He knew something was there. He wasn't like old and didn't understand what was going on. He was very young and alert. So, back to the night, I was sitting in my bedroom and I was playing on my PlayStation 2 and I was playing Red Faction. If you've never played Red Faction, it's a really cool game. It's like you play as like some Agent Ops guy that's like on Mars, like it's like taking place in the future, like 45 years in the future. It's a fun game.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there playing Red Faction, and Biff is laying on the bed behind me, and just in the middle of me playing the game, Biff all of a sudden like turns and looks towards my bedroom door, which is wide open. The lights are on. The hallway is there, like outside of my bedroom door. And he just starts kind of randomly growling at the doorway. And his hair starts standing up on his back, which, mind you, I had never seen this dog do. And we've had him for about 3 years now, right? Never seen him do that. So it was kind of weird to begin with because I'm like, is there somebody in the house? Like, do I need to be concerned? So I paused the game, put the controller down, and I stood up and kind of looked down the hallway. I didn't see anybody, and I was just like, okay. And I kind of paced out, looked into, my dad and stepmom's room. I looked down the hallway, looked in the bathroom, looked in the kitchen, like just kind of did a quick scan of the house, and I was like, nobody's in here, so okay.
No, I would have got the dog and left already.
Well, I should have, because what happened after that was I'll never forget it for the rest of my days. So, so I'll go back and sit down and like I play the game for a little bit and Biff starts at it again. But this time like he starts barking, right? Like he starts full on intruder alert barking like roar, 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 and I'm like, what the fuck? Biff, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, he never does that. He never does that. So I'm starting to kind of get creeped out. And when I finally get him to shut up, I start hearing this muffled, and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
You go
and
out
so,
the window.
pause the game, and like, in a stagnant silence for a second, like this. And I don't hear anything. And I'm listening, and I keep like waiting for something to come up. And it's like dead quiet in the house, and then I hear again. So at that point, because it was so dark, like not dark, but deadly silent. It felt dark in the house, even though all the lights were on. It felt dark and it felt off. But in that silence for a few seconds, as soon as I heard it muffled in the attic, Biff flipped his fucking shit again. And he starts, which makes a little more sense in that time,
Yeah.
But he was looking up at the attic, barking at it, and his hair was up, and he was showing his teeth and shit. I'd never seen this dog do this ever. Period. Biff. He was the sweetest. Like, Biff was the sweetest dog, and he was so like loving and caring, and like didn't have a mean bone in his body.
No.
But he was ready to kill something. Like, it was so weird. I'd never seen him act like that. So I open the attic door, go up in the attic and turn on the light, and I start realizing that like that noise is coming from one of my stepmom's old dolls. Like, it's just gone haywire, it's setting itself off, the batteries are going bad, whatever. That happens with old school like 80s and 90s electronic toys, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's common.
I mean, I had
that's a normal thing
back then, and I mean, I'll find one every once in a while, and it's...
You can still squeeze it, and the little old-ass fucking Samsung batteries from 1992 still somehow fucking have a little bit of charge left in them.
Just enough for that one last one.
Yeah, that one last little, I love you. and fucking, like, so I could hear it talking in a box because she had like a couple boxes up there with all her old like childhood, stuffed animals in boxes, right? So I get up there in the attic and I'm trying to find which box it's in.
You're way better than me.
and I'm like, okay, like I need to shut this thing up because at the time I wasn't thinking anything paranormal, right? Because I just thought, okay, the dog's just pissed off because he hears something random that he doesn't know. He's going to bark at it. That's normal. Whatever. I'm not thinking on the paranormal line yet. Yeah. Anyway. So, finally, I get the box open. I felt like something was a little off. Like, something felt a little weird, but I couldn't really identify what it was until I got up there and started searching through the boxes. So, I opened the box. And there's a Ernie doll from Sesame Street, right? Ernie from Sesame Street with the little, striped shirt and the fucking silly little hair. Like everybody knows who Ernie from Sesame Street is. And it was this Ernie doll. And he was probably about yay big, like probably about 3 feet. He was a good size, right? Yeah. Like about the size of like a Chucky doll, right? Yeah. And, he's still talking. He's like, hey, Bert, want to go play blah, 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 blah? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to take the batteries out because he's going haywire. Well, here's the thing. Those dolls have like a little Velcro patch on their back that you can open up and take the little sound box out. The little white plastic sound box. Take that out, take the batteries out, replace the batteries, stick it back in, Velcro it back up, and... Yeah, it's good to go.
My glowworm had a screw in one, and it was a pain to change the batteries.
Some of them have screws. Like, you gotta unscrew the tiny little screws and get the plate off.
And it was a pain to get it out.
His was just a little push-down tab to pull it out, right? I pulled that thing out of that box and undid the Velcro patch on its back. And took the little sound box out and went to open the little flap to take the batteries out. There weren't any batteries in this thing.
Nope.
No batteries.
No.
Like,
absolutely not.
And it took me a second to register what I was seeing in front of my very eyes. Like, I was like, okay, it doesn't have batteries. I need to put batteries in it. And then I'm like, wait a minute. It's been talking for the last 15 fucking minutes. How does it not have batteries in it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's when it clicked for me, and I was like, oh my fuck. And I freaked. Like, I just, like, it took, this all happens in, like, 3 seconds, right? Like, 3 to 5 seconds, like super, like, fast, like,
all your wheels were turning.
Thinking mode, like, the wheels are turning, and, like, the caveman's beating the club, and you're thinking about it, and you're like, wait a minute. Oh, fuck, I should probably do something. So, it happened like that. And when I realized that I had opened the thing and it didn't have batteries in it, and it had been talking this whole time, I got freaked the fuck out. So I was like, oh my god, and I froze for a second, and then it spoke again, and it spoke in a different voice that it was not speaking in before. Like, I'm talking like some demonic fucking, like, it was like, good night, Ernie, like, whatever it was that it said, but it was like in a really deep, gritty, disturbing voice. So I fucking threw that thing down on the floor, like, from the attic. Like, say that you're in an attic and you're up top and the ladder is below you. You throw this thing down into the floor as hard as you possibly can. That's literally what I did. I just fucking yeeted that motherfucker out of the attic, into the floor. And Biff, of course, like, took off. He was terrified of it. He didn't want anything to do with it. He didn't want to get close to it. He was like, nope, fuck this, I'm out.
Biff was smart.
Yeah, he was very smart.
Biff was smart as hell.
So it shut up. The doll stopped making noises after that moment. So I, like, freeze for a moment. There's about a 5-10 second period that passes while I'm staring down there at the floor, seeing it down there on the floor, and I'm, like, scared to come out of the attic now. Like, when I first got up there, I wanted nothing but to get the fuck out of that attic. But once I threw that thing in the floor, I wanted to stay in the attic, close the door, and lock my own ass up there. You know, like I wanted to be away from it.
Yeah.
And so, I come down off the ladder, and I'm like, all right, I'm taking this thing out of the house. I'm removing it from the premises, right? So I picked it up, and Biff started to come close to me, but he wouldn't get within about 3 feet of me. He knew that I was in control of it, but he knew that it was still off, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of like had a little exchange with him. I was like, it's okay, buddy. You know, it's okay. Go lay on the couch. And he just kind of looked at me and whimpered a little bit and went and laid on the couch. And when I went outside, he followed just about 3 feet behind me the whole time that I walked through the house to go outside and go out the back door. And then he sat at the back door and was waiting for me to come inside. So I went outside with the doll, right? The Ernie doll. It hadn't spoken since I fucking yeeted it into the floor. Out of the attic.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, I'm going to put it in the shed. So I go out, I'm walking through the backyard, and I'm not really thinking, right? Like, I'm just kind of spaced out, and I'm like, I'm going to put this thing in the fucking garage and be done with it. Because I just felt that unease. Yeah, that's a good, unease is what I felt. And so put it in the shed, and I put it on the seat of my dad's riding lawnmower. He had a really nice Husqvarna riding mower. It was an orange, Husqvarna brand, right? He had a really badass Husqvarna riding mower. That sucker was like 48-inch blade, double deck, could mow in reverse. Like, it was a nice ass mower.
We had a yellow one growing up.
That sucker was a powerhouse. I love that mower. And so I just put the Ernie doll in the seat of the mower. Well, what kind of stamped the wax seal for me was when I was walking back out of the shed after I had put the Ernie doll on the lawnmower seat. I heard it say, "Good night, Bert." Like, clear as day. And it came through the voice box, which had no batteries in it and hadn't spoken since I threw it in the fucking floor. But I put it in a shed and was getting ready to lock it up, and it says, "Good night, Bert," before I fucking shut it up completely and then go inside. And
I would have burnt the house down with it.
Dude, I about pissed myself. I'm not joking. Like, it was on fire. It was horrifying, because the moment that I heard that, it sent shivers down my spine like I've never felt before, and I freaked out and I slammed the shed door and threw the padlock on that motherfucker and ran inside. Like, it was one of the most disturbing experiences that I think I've ever had in my life. Like, that whole entire evening was fucked. You know what I mean? Like, it was fucked. It was horrible. So, I think I tried telling my stepmom about it later, and I was just like, hey, like, I can't deal with that thing being in the house. I'd like try to explain it.
Yeah.
But of course I was like, my stepmom and my dad aren't going to believe this shit. They're not going to fucking, they're not going to have any clue what I'm talking about. They're going to be like, okay, dude, you smoked too much pot today. Like, you need to go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to believe me. So I think I barely said anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I really said anything at all. I think I may have, looking back on it, I don't remember much after that night, so I may have said something to my stepmom or my dad, and was like, hey, by the way, the reason that this Ernie doll is in the shed is because XYZ, but I don't remember for sure if I actually did that or not. I really don't. So, I don't know, whatever. If not, doesn't matter.
It's gone now.
But that was one of the most intense paranormal encounters I've ever had, because that was definitely paranormal.
Yeah.
That was not coincidental. That was not a typical thing. There was something there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. We lived in this house from probably about 2008 to 2014. And we were out in the middle of Brown Summit, in the middle of the sticks, maybe about 2 miles from Jesse's house.
Right.
And so a bunch of farm fields around us, and right behind our house we had 2 lakes, and just a bunch of woods, in between us and the neighbors. So we were staying in this, farm-styled house at the time, and had, a little 2-story barn in the backyard for storage and whatever we needed it for. And then we had a 3-piece play set that you could climb on, and everything, and swing and do whatever. One of the tops just happened to have a cover on it. Mm-hmm. And my room at the time had 2 windows and a back door, because for whatever reason they decided this back door needed to go into my room and not the kitchen to get out to the back porch. And right. I kept it locked. I had furniture in front of it because I was paranoid, always paranoid. And I had 2 windows in my room, and right in front of it, one window was my bed at the foot of it, and then I had a desk set up at the other end. Mm-hmm. And in the backyard, it was lit up pretty nice, because this one had a telephone pole that had a light on it. So, I was very thankful that I had light where I could see through my windows. And when we first moved in, I loved keeping my windows open just to see the play set, so I could think about the next day, about, going out, having fun, playing. I could see my dogs outside walking around at night.
Right.
And I was good. Well, maybe after living there for about a month, I had been on the play sets a lot. Nothing had changed in the backyard. We didn't add, we didn't subtract. It was exactly the same. And the way the play sets were set up was right beside the woods. So, I would always think, oh, maybe there's a squirrel, or oh, maybe there's a raccoon or something in it. But after that time period of we had moved in and gotten settled in, unpacked everything, I would still leave my windows open at night just to see everything going on. And there was these piercing, just 2 white eyes. And I'm talking like as white as a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I could see it just enough. Like, they didn't glow or anything. It was just 2 white dots.
Yeah.
Piercing through where the wood and the roof, the little plastic roof, that's like a tarp essentially, on one of the play sets were. And they would just look right at the window. And every time I would see the eyes, I'd glance at them, I'd see them, and I'd look at them to figure out what it was. At the time I was like, maybe it's a cat, maybe, it's an animal that's gotten in the playhouse. Uh-huh. And I'd look at it, and they would disappear after a second or 2. And this started happening almost every single night. So I just started closing my blinds at night. And the way it was I had the bathroom right beside my room that had a window. And so I would go to the bathroom, and the blinds would be open for the bathroom. And I would just happen to look out the window, and I'd see them. Uh-huh. And they'd go away. So I started closing the blinds in the bathroom at night, too. Well, I would just peer out my window every once in a while just to see, maybe my window, the blinds are down, there's no light coming out, maybe the animal's gone.
Right.
And I would see it. I'd see the 2 white eyes just looking at the house for whatever reason from the woods in the little playhouse. Uh-huh. And I'd see it. And as soon as I'd open my curtain, I'd make, eye contact with it, and they'd go away. Every time. I was terrified to go outside after about a week of just consistently doing this and looking and checking and seeing that, they're there looking at me and I can see them and they're going away.
Right.
And they would come back. So, it's not like it would just happen once a night. I'd see these eyes a few times a night as I, check behind my blinds. And I still, to this day, do not know what was in that treehouse. little playset area.
That's fucking scary. Like, the unknown is even scarier than trying to explain it.
If I could see more than just the eyes, I feel like I would be a little more comforted. Like even if it was an apparition, a ghost, something to, put something to it, but not knowing what it was. I just to this day cannot.
That's scarier.
I kind of want to go back, to the house and see if they're still there.
I have that same want and need. I have that same need to go back to places that I've experienced shit like that and try to make sense of it. Like from as long as I could remember, like from 5 years old up to now, like almost every house I've lived in, almost, not every single one, but most of them, I swear I experienced something that is unexplainable, and it's something that you kind of have to carry it with you, because it's always debated, this topic, right? Like, it's always debated on, is it real or is it not? But it takes actually experiencing it and actually witnessing it yourself to
think
think and to realize. I mean, I even know people in my own life that don't believe in the afterlife or spirit world or paranormal or whatever you want to call it, that have experienced things in their life that are similar to that they just can't explain. And these are the people that look for every reason to explain it, that, oh, it's not ghosts, it's this, it's smoke and mirrors and lights and noises, and that only goes so far. You know what I mean? You can only explain that but so far. There's just sometimes shit happens that you literally cannot explain. So paranormal is not something that you can just talk about. I mean, you can, but it's a difference between experiencing it and just talking about it. There's a huge difference there, right? Like, for a while, like, even as a kid, like, there were certain things that I experienced, but at the time, like, I didn't realize they were paranormal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a lot of things that you don't realize were paranormal experiences until you become an adult and you think back and, like, dig into your childhood memories, and you're like, wait a minute.
Was this
still
real?
To this day, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And still to this day, there was no logical explanation for that. Right? And so I think of stuff back from when I was like 3 years old. I have a really good memory. Like, I remember stuff from when I was an infant. Right? Like, laying in a crib in diapers. That's very uncommon, but it is possible. And I remember, in fact, I'm going to describe it here now. I remember being about, if I'm going to take a guess here, I was probably about anywhere between 9 months to a year old, right? I was a little infant in a crib. I remember whatever house we were in at that time, my grandparents were there. And it's just one specific vivid memory of me and my grandmother, right? And I'm watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas on like an old school fucking like late 80s, early 90s, tube TV, basically. But it's the original How the Grinch Stole Christmas cartoon.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm in like a dark blue onesie. And it's got little footies on it, like my feet aren't exposed. They're also part of the onesie, and they've got little white padded feet. And it's like a very dark navy blue, right? Mm-hmm. And I have a toy that's it's like a little rod with 3 little rings around it, and there's 3 different colors. There's like a blue, a green, and a pink, or whatever, and the rod itself is like a bright orange or whatever. It's like a little rattle toy, right? And I'm sitting there like playing in my crib, and I'm watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas on the TV, and my grandmother comes in. She's like, hey sweetheart, you ready to eat something? And picks me up out of the crib and like carries me and kisses me on the cheek and puts me in my little high chair and gives me a little bowl of spaghetti. And I remember, like, tearing into that spaghetti, like, with my little fat baby hands, you know, like, I had that memory has been in my head for as long as I can possibly remember. And I know that it's a memory that is real, you know, like,
Yeah.
I know it's real because I've spoken with my grandmother about it, and she's like, honey, how do you even remember that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's like, honey, you weren't even a year old at that point. You know, how do you even remember that at all? And it's just that one memory. That's the only memory that I have from about before 4 years old.
Yeah.
That one memory I still remember to this day very vividly. You know, I remember eating the spaghetti with my hands and then throwing half of it in the floor. And my grandmother just chuckling and picking up the bowl and wiping off the spaghetti off the nice, clean, white tile kitchen floor. You know, like, I remember every little vivid detail of about 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And still to this day, still clear as day, still remember it. I'm almost 30 years old, dude. Like, and I remember shit from that age.
That's phenomenal.
And that's not normal, I don't think. Like,
No.
you know, I don't know if that's normal or not. I think they say that most people don't remember anything before, like, 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a bunch of shit from my toddler days. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so many things. I have so many memories, you know? And so I've ruled it up to, okay, I have a good memory. Like,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I can really reason with, is that I have a good memory. But you know what sucks about that is that you remember things that you don't want to. You know,
Yeah.
you have those experiences that you're like, I don't want to think about this. I don't want to remember this. I don't, like, this was a terrifying experience.
I have
right?
a few that I try to push back, and for whatever reason, you just can't.
Yeah. I mean, there's, you know, so many things that could either be suppressed or brought up, you know? Which, speaking of that, what other wild paranormal experiences have you ever had? What's another unexplainable thing that you've had happen to you?
So, this is also going back to the farmhouse, but
Same house from the previous story?
yeah,
Okay.
same farmhouse, and
It's like The Haunting of Hill House.
it.
Like, you know, damn good show, by the way. If you're listening and you haven't watched it, watch Haunting of Hill House.
I gotta add that to my list.
Yeah, it's a damn good show. But anyway,
But for whatever reason, so the barn that we had in the backyard at the time, you know, it was just always eerie. It had power. We could go ahead and, you know, store stuff in it, you know. And in fact, to this day, I know it's been flipped. It's actually a hair studio, you know, where one of the people that owned it, they gave it to their daughter to live in the house, and she does hair in the barn because they fixed it up so well.
right.
And it had an upstairs and the part that you could call like an inside space where you could have, you know, a bedroom or an office or a hair salon now. And then the other part, you know, we just kept our lawnmower and everything there because it was kind of like a drive, you know, a drive-in area, like a garage, essentially.
Right.
And I just happened to be in there one night, you know, it was already, sun was set, you know, the moon was up, and I just had to go in there for whatever reason. And I can't even remember what I had to go get out of there from the storage. And I couldn't find anything upstairs. And I had to go upstairs for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm upstairs, I'm looking for it because I couldn't find it downstairs. And it was pretty big. It went, you know, across the entire, you know, barn, you know, on both sides. You know, the upstairs was just always enclosed through the door that you had to unlock to get up there.
Right.
And I'm up there, and I finally found what I'm looking for. And I bend over, I pick it up, and as I stand there, my back is to the rest of it. You know, I'm kind of facing the stairs where I just come up and everything, and it only had a overhead light to pull with a string. So you didn't flip a switch and the entire place was lit. You had to go around pulling string light bulbs, because that's just how old the barn was. Mm-hmm. And I click on the light, you know, I can only see my area. And from around the corner, I hear like someone is trying to, I guess, shuffle across the floor. And then I hear something fall over. And immediately I think, okay, you know, there's someone up here with me. Mm-hmm. And as you can tell from all the other stories today, I don't do shit like that. That is not me. I am not that person.
Right? Yeah, like, nah, fuck that shit.
Let me go investigate.
Enough...
Like, I'll call Scooby-Doo for that shit.
Yeah,
you know?
I've just seen enough horror movies to know, like, I'm the dumb white motherfucker that walks in and goes, hey, what's going on in here? And then, boom, decapitated.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I'm not one to, like, I don't care if I have my gun and a flashlight. My gun and my flashlight are going back down the stairs. And out the front door.
Yeah, right? Like, that's going to be my guidance out.
And so we, you know, I get whatever I needed and I bolted down the stairs. I left all the lights on up throughout everything. And I shut the door behind me and it locks automatically. And so I race back to the carport connected to the house and I get inside.
Yeah.
And...
butthole clenching, running, like, you know, like,
yeah.
You know,
I'm pretty sure, like, I made it sore from clenching so hard. And
you've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. If you got a fucking sore booty, you've probably been haunted by a evil spirit. That's...
Who needs asshole kegels when you can get a ghost?
Yeah. Oh.
But
Pyrocast. Oh my god.
You can see the barn from my windows as well, because the windows I had, I could see the entire backyard. Yeah, and so you know, I'm back in the house, and I sit in the living room and I compose myself for a little bit. You know, I'm like, you know, what did I hear? What could have been up there? You know, no one has a key besides the one that's in the house with me, you know, because we only had one key for it. And I didn't turn off any of the lights. My parents were already just chilling, like, in their room for the night, like, weren't really out and about. And I remember just looking out my window. And my parents are still in their room. They haven't left. They haven't gone up to get to the bathroom. And you could hear someone going around the house. It creaked. It was the old house.
Yeah.
And so you knew when someone was up in the morning and everything. And
you hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I see just this figure cross in front of the window in the lights. And I'm like, someone is in here.
It's the boogeyman.
Yeah, well, the boogeyman can stay in there as long as I ain't in the house. And at that point, I was like, hell no. Absolutely not. No. And so I rush into my parents' room after seeing that, and I'm like, you know, you need to get the hell up. Like, you need stand up, do something. Like, get the gun, you know, get a knife, like, get a flashlight, call the police.
Let me get the debit card out the Chevy. I'm about to go to town on this damn here spirit. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, like that's weird for this area. No one breaks in around here. You know, everyone knows everyone has a gun. You know, they're not going to break in anywhere. And they were like, you know, we're going to call the police. And I was like, okay. So we call 911. Yeah. And, you know, they're calling from their room, which is on the front end of the house, which faces the driveway and the road, not the backyard. So, you know, I'm over here like sweating bullets and pissing on myself. And, you know, he's like, you know, hey, my son said, you know, he saw someone in the barn. Yeah. And I don't go back to my room to look out the window to see if anything's still there, I can see anybody. And 911 finally gets there. The sheriff comes out and everything, and they're like, there's two of them, And so, working with them previously, I know that they're going to come into, to clear a house and everything like that. And so, they go to the barn.
Yeah, they're going to scan.
And the lights are out. In the upstairs and downstairs.
Of the barn.
Yeah. I have not gone back because I was shitting on myself already.
Yeah.
And I had made sure I was keeping a focused eye on my mom and dad that were there. And I was like, what are you going to do? You're the adults. I got to follow your lead.
Yeah, Dookie draws full.
We have not planned for someone breaking in. I have emergency exits for fires and all sorts of stuff that we've gone over, but it was no intruder.
I have a roll of duct tape, a Gatorade, and a pack of Band-Aids. We're ready to go.
And so they're like, wait here, we're going to go check everything out. So we're sitting in the kitchen that has the side door that goes out to the car patio area. Mm-hmm. And they go into the backyard. We give them the key to go unlock the door and everything, and they unlock it. And they go from top to bottom, corner to corner, room to room. Nothing. Nothing's there. Lights were out. They couldn't find anything other than what I had heard fallen over, which was a box that was just holding a bunch of random things. And the box hadn't moved in months. It was just all there. Nothing was different. And it just had fallen over. That's all they could find.
Interesting. What was there anything significant in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
My dick in a box.
Yeah. Is my dick in a box?
All it was just regular old VCR tapes, that we didn't have room for in the house.
Oh, man.
And it wasn't home videos. I mean, it was just
my dick in a VCR tape. Yeah.
How else am I supposed to rewind it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like okay, we're not doing Justin Timberlake dick in a box. We're doing Lionel Richie dick in a VCR tape. Oh, jeez. Oh my god. But anyway, continue your story.
But they came back and they were like, are you sure that the lights were on? Are you sure that you saw someone in there? And I said, I heard that box fall.
Yeah.
And my pussy ass ran out of the barn. Yeah. I didn't give a shit about the energy bill. I didn't, I said I'll turn them off tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty sure I seen Jason Voorhees standing in the corner of that barn ready to have my booty for the taking. So,
Not this chocolate starfish.
Oh, God.
And, I was like, I gathered myself in the living room, and I went out to my window, and I showed him what window I looked out of, and I was like, I opened from this side, and I looked, and I was just watching, and this thing came in front of the window upstairs, and I said, that was not, a squirrel, that was not an owl, that was...
it was a Jason Voorhees coming for that booty.
Yeah, and you know what? It's still here, thank God, lump and plump.
Praise be to Jesus. But that sounds pretty terrifying, actually. Like, I got another one that is... The best thing about this story is that there's more than just me that witnessed it. In fact, there's about, I want to say 6 of us that witnessed this. And if any of my siblings or cousins are listening to this podcast right now, when I say the Yeti, they know exactly what I'm getting ready to tell. Okay?
Right. I wouldn't even give it a chance. I would have ran.
So, my brothers and my cousins can both attest to this story because they were there. They witnessed this with me, and we all were there and witnessed this at the same fucking time. Everybody saw the same thing. Okay? When we were kids, and I don't mean like 6 7 years old. I mean, like, in the 9 to 12, 13-year-old range, right?
Yeah.
So it was me, my older brother Zach, my younger brother Caleb, Liam, my cousin Katie, and myself. So that's 6 of us, right? Or 5 of us.
Yeah.
And we lived out in the country, like out in this little town, you know, out in like more like northeastern North Carolina. It's a little tiny town called Bunn. Little country town. Most people don't know of it.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, Bunn. It's a very tiny, quaint little country town. Very small, very tiny. And at that time, we lived out in that general area. It's to geographically let you know where it is. It's close to Raleigh, Durham area. Wake Forest, Raleigh, Durham area.
The shadow place we don't speak of.
Yeah, it's that dark, shadowy place that Mufasa tells you not to fucking go to. Yeah, but Bunn is a really quaint, cute little country town. It is. It's very quiet. It's very peaceful. It's very, relaxing. I like Bunn. A lot people that grow up there fucking hate it, but I think that's just normal. Like,
yeah,
people hate where they grow up. Period. They eventually grow to hate it because they want to move on to something else, right?
Yeah.
So, we lived kind of on the outskirts of Bunn, like kind of going towards, I guess, Lewisburg, Youngsville area. Anyway, we were out in the country, and we were in this small development, out in the country, and we're all hanging out one night at my mom's house, and we're playing outside, we're playing with lightsabers. Like, you remember the old school lightsabers that you put the batteries in it and it lights up and makes noises when you clash it, old school toy lightsaber.
Oh, yeah. I had a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. So we're playing like lightsabers outside and shit because it's dark and you can see the lightsabers real good in the night and they glow real good, and like we're all playing hide and seek and doing whatever, just doing kid shit.
Yeah.
And we go inside for a minute, we come back out, and when you come out the back door, you come onto the deck, and then you run off the deck, and then you go into the yard, and right when you go off the deck, there's this big bush, right? And this bush is like the kind that you would see at the beach. It looks like cattails, right? Like, it's got the long, thin strands of leaves that are like, fucking 8-10 feet long. You know what I mean? And they're all bushing out of it. It looks like a beach plant. So this beach plant looking thing is there, and we all come outside at the same time, and we start to run off the back deck. And then, like, I was behind my cousin and my older brother. They were in front of me, and then my 2 younger brothers were kind of on each side of me. And I'm kind of a little bit in the middle of this group as we're approaching this bush, running out. Like, this all happens in a second, right? Like, we're going to go play. And then all of a sudden, my cousin and my older brother freeze and stare for a second at this bush, and then we freeze behind them. Well, then my older brother's like, "Did you see that?" And then we shuffle a little bit to the left of the bush, and we see this huge, like, towering Yeti looking thing, right? Like, it's pure, like, powder snow white, furry, hairy, like, it's got big claws and teeth and shit, and like, it was a humanoid, a Wendigo of some sort. I swear to God, it was a Wendigo. That's what I think it was. I think we witnessed a Wendigo. If you don't know what a Wendigo is, Google it. It's a fucking terrifying entity. A Wendigo is a fucking soul harvester. Like, Anyway, we all see this thing at the same time. Like, at the same second, all of us realized what we were looking at. And we all screamed at the top of our fucking lungs and took off inside. Like, The younger ones are crying, like we're all freaking out, and we're like, "Oh my god, we just saw this, we saw this thing," you know. And it's of course my mom and my stepdad and like everybody else is there, all the adults that are there, like, "What are you talking about? Calm down, calm down, calm down." And like we're trying to explain it to them. Of course, the adults go outside, check it out, nothing's there. You know what I mean? Like I'm
looking up photos of this thing now.
What, Wendigos?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's kind of what we saw. It had like the head of it was like a skull, and it had horns, and then the rest of its body was like this big, bulky, furry, like white thing, and it was fucking weird. And it looked like the Yeti from like Star Wars. On
Hoth.
On Hoth. Yeah, that thing that had Luke in that cave, it looked kind of like that from the fur texture standpoint.
Yeah.
But it was more decrepit and like hunk over, like its shoulders were like up farther than its head, and it was like this, it had these claws and teeth, and it looked like a Wendigo, like it had the fucking like bull skull. You know, like it was a freaky ass looking thing, and we all lost our shit because we all saw it at the same fucking time, screamed and ran inside, and all of our descriptions of it are the same. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't like oh, you saw this, then you saw this. No, everyone's description matches up. You know what I mean? So, it's...
Absolutely not.
And, like, of course, we scream and run inside, and we're telling the parents about it, and... You know, they go outside and check it out, and nothing's there, and it's just like, oh, you were just seeing stuff. No, we all saw the same fucking thing that night. And it, to this day, every time one of us brings it up, like, we don't want to talk about that. We're not talking about that. We're not. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. I'm a runner and a track star.
It is to this day something that I cannot explain, and I don't think anybody else that was there amongst my brothers and cousins that could explain it. None of us can explain it to this day. And it always seems to happen out like in the countryside and in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's very rare that shit like this happens in the city. Well, really, it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's because these, whether they're creatures or entities or whatever they are, they don't come into populated areas. They don't come into heavily populated areas. They typically reside outside of that. That's what they prefer to do, you know? So...
I mean, it's easier for them to maneuver around, you know, and stay... vigilant and observant of us, but also undetected.
Well, and again, whatever this was not just observing us. It was hunting. Like, this thing was not just observing. You could feel that tension, right? Like, you could feel that because you could feel that it was not just observing. It had other intentions that would have been a big fucking negative Ghost Rider for a standard human being. You know what I mean? Like, it...
I would break so many records getting back to the house. You know.
Like, I'm gonna be fucking... We all turned into Usain Bolt in like 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, boom. Bolt your ass back to the house. We're going to go inside and scream and cry about it for a few minutes. We're never going outside for the rest of the night. We're going to go in the room and huddle up, and we're going to play Super Smash Bros. Melee on the GameCube, or we're going to forget any of this ever happened.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yes. Like, it was one of those kind of nights. Like, it was, we had to, we talked about it very, very briefly. And when I mean briefly, for like 60 seconds. And then we were just like, nope. Let's stop talking about it.
It's done.
Let's go back to something else. Let's play video games. We'll forget about it if we play video games, right? Like, oh, fun. You know, like, it was so traumatic that we had to just try to tune it out and block it out. But it didn't work because here I am talking about it today, you know?
Yeah.
That particular house, there was some shit out in those woods, dude. I don't know what it was. But that Yeti experience was not the only one. I could tell 10 other fucking stories.
Yeah.
but something about that house in those woods was off. Right? Like there was something there. There was something there that I could not explain to you. Um, I mean, you could call it entities or fairy tale creature, whatever the fuck you want to call it. There was something there that was not just of our normal understanding of human life, right?
Yeah.
Like there was something else there.
Which, going back to my grandparents' house, where the only light that they had on was, at the end of the gravel road in the middle of nowhere.
Beneath the halo of a street lamp.
But going back like 800 feet from their house, there was a little walking path that they had made, over time that just led to a lake. And this lake isn't like it wasn't a private lake. It's huge. It connects to a park, and people, launch their boats there. And so, it's populated. You'll have going over bridges through McLeansville, you'll pass over the same lake 3 or 4 times because it just bends so much.
Yeah.
So they had a little walkway where they could go down and just hang out and be able to cast their rods back and forth. And maybe a quarter mile to the right, if you had just come straight down the trail and you'd hit the lake, you could see one of the bridges during the day. And, you could see cars passing over it and everything in the distance and stuff. Well, we had been down there, and we knew that there was coyotes and everything like that down there, but we heard all of them on the other side of the lake. And it sounded like they were kind of moving around the side towards us, but it wasn't, like their normal talkative behavior, where they're just talking and howling and stuff like that as, they move through the area. It sounded like they were being chased by something. Right. And, you could hear them just booking it all the way around to us. Mm-hmm. And they, once they get around to our sides, we kind of start, yelling, to, kind of warn them, like, hey, we're over here, go away, go somewhere else, Right. And they scatter off, deeper into the woods away from the lake. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of, had sketched me and my biological father at the time and my grandfather. And so you're like, okay, we have a pistol with us, we have our fishing rods and stuff, and we have our gear. Let's go ahead and just pack up for the night and head back. It's already dark out, it's maybe about 8 o'clock at night. And so we start gathering everything, and I'm getting goosebumps on my, body, just head to toe, thinking something's watching me. Right. And so I kind of, just kind of keep alert, around us. And thinking maybe it's, a coyote that's strayed away from the pack that sees us or something, whatever. Like, it could be anything, And so we start walking our way back, at a slow pace, just trying to, guide our way through on this small path that's maybe 3 feet wide, just trying to get through the path we had just made. Well, I can hear something behind us, and it's not a coyote, it's not a bear, it sounded like there was a fourth person behind us, maybe 20, 25 feet behind us, and right. You could hear the step, and the cracking of the leaves and the cracking of the sticks, through the woods, and they're not on the path, they're a little off to our right. Right. And I can hear it, and I'm like, Dad, there's something out there. There's something following us, it's behind us. And, he's brushing it off, trying to act tough. And, it's nothing, we got this. We're almost back home, And you can hear them just kind of creep up behind trees and stay there. And at one point, they had darted to another tree to try to get, instead of kind of like catty-cornered behind us to watch us, walk away and still be beside, they had darted to right beside us, maybe 15, 20 feet away. And we can't see anything. It's pitch black out. and you could hear them grab onto the tree and the bark just break off into pieces and hit the ground.
Ooh.
And at that point, I'm pretty sure I'd piss myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it.
Yeah, like you're getting ready to start collecting 8 pages and dodging Slender Man here in a fucking few minutes. Like,
yeah.
You know?
And so I can see my biological dad and I can see my grandfather look at each other. And it wasn't a look of like, what was that? You know, like a confusion.
It was a look of like, we need to do something.
It was,
and get the fuck out of here.
Their eyes got as wide as could be, and they looked at each other and was like, what in the fuck is about to happen?
Yeah.
And so my grandfather drops his chair that's in his hand and grabs my arm. Mm-hmm. And we start speed walking at this point. He's like, fuck this chair, I can come back tomorrow for it. Mm-hmm. And we start speed walking, and my biological dad is on the other side of me, and we're just hurrying along. And as we speed up, we can hear them just start kind of consistently walking through the tree line instead of waiting behind trees.
And when you say them, you're talking about
whatever is in the woods.
Whatever it was that was following you.
It's just a singular thing, though. It's not 2 things, 3, it's not but you can hear just step, 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 and all the leaves are just cracking, and the branches are just pulling, and they're brushing up against the trees, but you can just hear the bark just breaking off and hitting the ground. Mm-hmm. And as they start to speed up, because they notice we've sped up, we book it. Mm-hmm. And we booked it all the way through the woods and into the yard where it was just open and clear. And I remember whatever was there went along the tree line.
Couldn't cross it.
And just hit all the trees, and just bark was just hitting the ground everywhere. And you can hear it on top of the leaves. Mm-hmm. Just hitting. And I mean, we went back the next morning and, to go get my grandfather's chair, he said, fuck it with. We could see the bark on the trees had just been
ripped off,
cut off, and it looked like, I'm not going to say claw marks, but it looked like they were like cut with like a knife.
Yeah, like
or
big
something,
panels,
But it was like just like 2 lines just going across the tree line and everything. And I was like, fishing's not for me anymore.
Yeah.
And I've never been fishing since.
Oh my god. That's fucking scary, dude.
That should have been warning 1, not to go back to that house.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
like, that's, oh my god. That's rough, because I wouldn't want to even, set foot on that property ever again after something like that.
I should have wised up, but instead I kept going back and everything, and then I had the paranormal phenomenon in the house, and I was like, I'm not even safe inside. Why come back anywhere?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just another one of those unexplainable encounters that you can't quantify. You can't explain it. You can't, you can tell it a million different ways, and you can, try to rationalize it any way you can in your head, but it's one of those ones that you really, truly, at the end of the day, cannot explain. Like, there's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly.
And we're, some people believe in it, some people don't, but whether you do or not, we're surrounded by shit like that all the time, every day in our daily lives. Some people notice it, some people don't. And some people experience it, and some people don't. So, I think that's why Haunted Memories was a fantastic title for this podcast, because we're diving into and reaching those memories from long ago that even still to this day we can't explain. I mean, surely everyone has something like that. Some people I've talked to literally say, nope, never experienced anything like that. Don't believe in ghosts, don't believe in aliens or anything like that. And I'm like, okay, well, some aren't as in tune as others.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. You know,
you believe in whatever
not saying
you
that they're
believe
wrong.
in, but...
You know, not saying that they're wrong. They may never have experienced anything like that in their lives. I mean, not everyone does. It's not a everyday thing that everyone experiences, but it is there, and it can only be told by the people that have experienced it. And the people that have experienced it and tell it, you got to take their word for it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not like, I mean, yeah, there are some people out there that bullshit it, and there are some people out there that, you know, tell fake stories, and they, you know, they just want the clout, but you can kind of pick which ones are doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of tell. And then there's other people that, you know, still can't explain it. And what I've come to find is most of the people that can or try to are the ones that are lying. You know what I mean? Like, those are the ones that are full of shit. You know, like they are. Like, you know, I've met several people that try to tell a ghost story, and they're like, oh yeah, it ends up being blah 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 and blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, that wasn't really a true experience that you had then, was it? No, it was, but you know, it was.
Yeah, or they use someone else's story. I mean,
and
you don't know the feeling, you know?
Right? No, you have to be there in the moment for it, you know.
And I wish I wasn't.
It's like your experience with the fucking street lamp out in the middle of the darkness of the country, or my experience with the creepy Ernie doll in the attic. Like, there's certain things you just can't explain, no matter how you try to put it, or how you try to analyze it, or explain it. There's just no way to do so.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know. Even when I tell my Ernie doll story, people are like, oh, it could have just short-circuited. Yeah, but it had no batteries.
Energy?
With no energy, no battery powers, right? Like, nothing, no batteries, nothing involved. Like, it's just supposed to do that normally? Like, that's normal? No, it's
Absolutely
not fucking normal.
Not.
No, it's not. Like, that's not normal. That's not something that just happens, right? Like, unless you have a Furby. You know, Furbies are a different fucking story. I swear those things are sent straight from the pits of hell. But, you know, point being, you can't quantify it. And so, that's why they're haunted memories. You know, they're memories from the past.
I'm going to go home and have nightmares about all of this tonight.
But, they're always going to be there. They're those ones that you'll remember for the rest of your life, and there's a reason you'll remember them for the rest of your life, because they're unexplainable, and you know that there was something more than just your standard reality that you believe in. You know, there was something much more to it. So, it's all about how you take it in. It's all about how do you receive that information? How do you receive that moment? How do you receive that memory? You know, within yourself. And
by pissing myself. That's how I receive
by
it.
pissing and shitting all them up
every time. You better wear boots, because I'm filling up the room.
About to shit all over the damn place. But, you know, that's what haunted memories are. They're memories that you'll never forget. And that's why they haunt you. That's what haunting means, is to stay residually, you know. No matter what you do, they're always going to be there.
Yeah.
So, with that said, this has been a very interesting and fantastic discussion. Very interesting and fantastic podcast. If you have any stories, if you're listening, if you have any stories, please type them out in the comments below. Like, if it's a long story, I want to hear them. I know I do. Like, if you've got any stories that are paranormal or just flat out unexplainable,
I'm going to go back and read them.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I want to know. Like, I want to hear them. Because every single one is different. Every single one of them is different. None of them are the same. You know? Everyone has their own personal experiences. And again, some don't. But if any of you are listening that do have one, please tell us. We would love to hear about it. But with that said, thank you all so much for tuning in and for listening. This has been a fantastic time. And we will revisit again here soon with some more spoopy shit. Right?
Oh, I'm definitely excited.
Yeah.
I've already been searching stuff.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Already been on the interwebs. Been looking around, trying to find some more spooky shit.
Like the Devil's Stomping Grounds.
Oh, dude.
I'm ready for it.
I would love to go to the Devil's Tramping Grounds. If you're listening, check out the Devil's Tramping Grounds. That is a very interesting piece of North Carolina history. The state of North Carolina has the Devil's Tramping Grounds, which contains a circle in the woods that does not grow any sort of vegetation whatsoever, and scientists cannot explain it. They can't explain why no vegetation grows there. There's a lot of, folklore and fairy tales about that place that,
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
yeah, if you stay there for the night, like if you stay in that circle for the night, you'll disappear and never be found. All that will remain is your tent and your camping set,
And that's, if it's in the circle, it's thrown out.
Yeah, or it's thrown out. It's gone. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of crazy shit about the Devil's Tramping Grounds. So if you're interested in hearing a cool little ghost story, then that's a good one for sure. Another one, North Carolina related, would be Lydia's Bridge. Lydia's Bridge is another fantastic haunted memory that you should listen to.
My grandfather's picked up Lydia.
Yeah,
and
Lydia
that's how
has
crazy
been picked
it
up
is.
by hundreds of people. That's the crazy thing. Like, that's happened numerous times. So yeah, we will definitely revisit here soon and talk about some more scary shit. But until next time, we're going to have to call this one quits. And we appreciate you all tuning in and listening. And we will catch you all in the next one.
Hashtag Pyro Godson.
Oh, Godson. Jesus Christ.
I'm a menace to society.
Yeah, a menace to society. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.